Chris Olds, Beckett Media here. I'm with the latest, a collect call with Topps VP of Finance and Operations, David Leiner. We're here today to talk about redemptions. So first off, David, what do you actually do for Topps, or what does the workload include?
Oh, hi, Chris. Thanks a lot for having me on today. I oversee our finance and accounting functions, along with our customer service, player licensing, manufacturing, sourcing, and planning departments.
Okay. So obviously the topic of the day is redemptions, and that's just one part of your responsibilities, but it all ties together. Obviously collectors don't like redemptions, but also card companies don't either. They create a lot of obstacles for you guys. Can you explain all the headaches and the things that they cause for a company?
Yeah, I mean, from the company's perspective, redemptions are a huge problem. They're extremely costly. Internally, it's easy enough for us to put dollars around, all the fulfillment costs, storage costs, postage costs, etc. We have those numbers. It costs us in any given year hundreds of thousands of dollars. But more importantly, we can't quantify the costs to our consumers, which is even a bigger deal to us and more important. Consumers are, getting these redemptions cards. There's, long processes to get them fulfilled. Uncertainty when the cards are going to get fulfilled, changes in value of the players while consumers are waiting. So it's a big expense to our consumers. It costs us a lot internally. But it's, we feel for our consumers, and that's a bigger headache and a bigger expense to us because we know that affects future purchases of our products.
Right. What for kind of the insider, perspective, what are the leading causes of redemptions? What are the things that, make them happen the most for you guys?
Well, yeah, a couple things about our business different from our competitors. We work on a made-to-order model. So first off, we go out and solicit products, and in order for our consumers to purchase those products, and oftentimes we ask our customers to purchase these products way in advance of the street date, sometimes 4 or 5 months out. We're asking for commitments from our customers. In order for them to make those commitments 4 or 5 months out, they want to know who's going to be in the product. So we try to solicit as complete a checklist as we can of who's going to be in the product, who's going to be signing, who the big names are. And then what we do is we wait for all the orders to come in before we actually go to print those cards, and go out and get those cards signed. We could get those cards signed earlier in advance of knowing what the production numbers are going to be. But again, we're in the business of collectibles. We want to make sure that the cards, are scarce, that we meet the guarantees in our products. But we don't want to overproduce anything. We want our cards to hold tremendous value for our consumers. So that's what's, really important to us. So being a made-to-order business is a big challenge. We don't store product. There's nothing on our floor in inventory, et cetera. Another big driver for us is really the on-card autographs. Topps spends a lot of time striving to, create beautiful designs, beautiful products, full league marks, deals with all the players, et cetera. And we want those cards signed on card. So we could sit here and stockpile autograph stickers. We could have players signed during the off season, et cetera, and just do sticker products. But that's not what the consumers want. That's not what we want. We design our cards for the most part to be on-card designs that are beautiful and maintain, more value than the sticker product. So that's a big driver. That's something that's changed dramatically over the past couple of years. As our entire industry is going more towards on-card, we're trying to be the leader in that department. And also, scheduling with players is always a challenge. During the year, players have a lot of time constraints, a lot of other things on their plate. We hear the same things all the time. Pitchers, for example, they pitch only 1 in 5 days. Why can't they sign on the other 4 days? There's rehab. There's, other conditioning that the players do. There's just tremendous time commitments on them. So it's tough on both parties. We understand the player's number one responsibility is to perform on the field. We don't want to do anything to, impair their ability to do that. So we push and push and push, and the players are great for the most part, but there's times during the season where they run into issues, and scheduling can be a very, tough part of that process.
Right, and I don't, collectors out there may not know this, but like the NFL, for example, doesn't allow signings, or the PA doesn't allow signings during certain times of the year period. And also, too, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but literally it's a year-long process of building a product. or 6 months to a year out. I don't know if people think about that all the time either. Whether they.
That's correct. I mean, our average production process from the time, the inception of the product to the street date on average is about 38 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You could imagine some of our, higher end, more complicated products, your triple threads, 5-star kind of products, push 42 weeks. And some products do have a shorter time frame as well, but 38 weeks is on average where we're at. And another issue too is, we're always trying as players get called up to revamp and change the product, and our consumers have the expectation that when a player gets called up, that player is going to be in the next product, and obviously that's what we strive to do. That sometimes too can also lead to issues with redemption.
Right, exactly. So, there are other things that also come into play. Sometimes players just aren't timely signers; they're just not into it. How does Topps handle doing deals with athletes who aren't worried about time or not always good about returning stuff on time? Do you guys sometimes try different approaches with signings? Maybe having them, maybe perhaps issuing redemptions throughout the year or knowing that a player is doing 3 signings a year later in the year and that's it? I would think in some instances that might be the case.
Yeah, I mean, for players that aren't timely signers, we do try to limit the number of sessions to work with those players. We try to align our production schedules with those signing sessions as well. So that's definitely one thing that we try to do. In some cases, we do have to go more to stickers with some of those players. But another important thing that we're doing as we move forward is we're evaluating who those non-timely signers are, and we're going to try to avoid a lot of those players.
Right.
There's no player that's bigger than any one of our products, that's bigger than baseball or football or UFC, etc. All those leagues have lots of great talent, and there's a lot of players. So we're going to look to avoid those subjects. We just balance that with trying to create great products that our consumers will enjoy, but we understand the frustration. It's shared on both sides. So we're going to look in the future at really evaluating that and taking a hard look when we go and sign deals with new players.
Right. I mean, I think it's just inevitable because it's just not a priority for those guys with those big paychecks in some cases. How about players' health issues with older players? For example, Hall of Fame baseball players. Does that ever come into play with redemptions? I've heard stories of certain players who can't actually see the sticker sheets very well, so they can't sign stickers anymore. And their vision just goes. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm sure the players are under contract and they want to commit to them. But does that come into play at all sometimes?
Sometimes it comes into play, but not too much.
Okay.
We're aware of most of those situations, and we try not to put the athlete in a position where they're having difficulty signing. So there's a couple guys that are in that situation, but we really work towards avoiding that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those things, certain players, they're definitely in demand and of interest, and as they get older, like all of us, it's tougher to do lots of things. I have plenty of problems just getting up, coming to work in the morning, so... Let's see here. My next question on my list. Topps recently decided to do a different set of cards to replace redemptions that were older, stuff that was outstanding for, I think, up to 2 years or something like that. What was the thought behind creating this set, and has it been received as you guys expected?
Yeah, so I mean, the thought behind this set was we felt that we needed to address certain redemptions that we believed were unlikely to be fulfilled.
Right.
It's a tough situation. It's a bad situation, and we put our consumers in this spot. We felt the program overall, it was received kind of as we expected. There's always some people that aren't going to be happy, that are never going to be happy. Those folks tend to be very vocal, and we understand it. We felt, though, overall that we tried to deliver more value. It's tough when you create a set, outside of anything that, relates to any specific brand. So we understand that there were some concerns. As we move forward, we're exploring other options, and this is not a position that we want to put ourselves or our consumers in. So hopefully going forward, you won't see a program like this again.
Yeah, I mean, I had one myself personally a while back that I actually ended up getting a better card in the process. A current player, and I got a guy who's retired in Hall of Fame caliber. So, I mean, there's always going to be people who are happy or not happy with situations like that.
Yeah.
Were there problems with the actual redemptions processing somewhere along the line, or was there just a backlog of deals that didn't get fulfilled. What kind of caused the slowdown for your company with redemptions in the last few years?
I wouldn't necessarily say that there's really been a slowdown with the fulfillment of redemptions.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to get a much quicker turnaround time from the time that we actually get the card signed and in-house and then back out to consumers. So nothing's really changed over the years in terms of how quickly we're turning around the cards that come in. We're going to work towards expediting that process, and we know we're going to get a lot better at that. So I don't think anything's really changed other than the amount. I mean, the overall amount of redemptions has increased.
Yeah.
So as a percent in the product and just in total number of redemptions. So I wouldn't necessarily say that there was any slowdown. I mean, internally, we're still processing several thousand redemptions per week. So it's not really a slowdown, but we need to manage that better. And as cards come in, we're trying to get them turned around more quickly. Hopefully consumers have seen in the past few weeks that, we're tweeting some of the, more desired, higher dollar players and things that are coming in, and we're turning those around very, very quickly for consumers. So hopefully, there are some bright spots here as we're trying to work on that process. We've been fulfilling many of the redemptions in-house for some of those higher end players to ensure that they're getting turned around very, very quickly, mm-hmm. and cut through some of the red tape internally with those redemption fulfillment processes.
Okay. With back to the redemption set, the unique new set that was created. In a lot of instances, the autographs that went out as replacements were players who may have been more costly for you guys to acquire than people may think. For example, an A-Rod autograph, while he's not necessarily that popular now, probably still cost you guys quite a bit, big picture, back when you did signings with him. So can you explain how the process of doing those replacements, like how they're picked, or how they're, how they're decided, essentially, how they're issued?
Yeah, I mean, what we always try to do, we strive for equal or greater value with anything that we're going to replace. In terms of, the cost to tops, you're absolutely right. A-Rod's very expensive. Obviously, he's not the most popular guy right now, and some of his values have dropped. Unfortunately for tops, and unfortunately for others, we don't look at what we paid for anything internally. That's our problem. We'll have to deal with it. We look at the secondary market value. We basically look at two things when we look at replacements and equal or greater value. We look at you guys at Beckett, and we also look at eBay. It's always tough. I mean, a lot of these players are like the stock market. They're moving every single day. Players' values are going up and down. So if you call us on a Tuesday and you call us on a Friday, a player's value can dramatically change. I mean, we've seen some instances this week where a key baseball player was just injured. It's tough. It's very difficult. So in terms of our equal or greater value, I mean, we kind of look at those two places to kind of make a benchmark and go from there. So it's also tough, too, in the eyes of the consumer, too. Equal or greater value might not mean much to them. If a consumer is a fan of a certain player or team, they don't care that we might give them a card that's, double the value.
Right.
A Cardinals fan, they're a Cubs fan, et cetera. So there's a lot of things we have to weigh, and we try to work with the consumers, and it's a lot of one-on-one negotiating and trying to make the consumer happy. That's what we're concerned about in that process.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where, A-Rod, just the fees alone, I figured you guys would pay more attention to that, but I guess that's an extra cost of when redemptions happen. It's more cost to you guys to actually, make them fixed, so to speak. So
yeah, it's as I said, it's extremely costly for us, but we have to deal with that internally, and we have to work towards fixing the issue for our consumers, because that's what's driving our product. That's what's driving the growth for us. So on the financial side, we'll work through those issues. That's more of our problem.
Yeah, it's an interesting answer. I figured I didn't expect that answer myself. So with the replacements, one last question on that. There were some instances where some high ticket, unique odd cards that were replaced weren't really replaced equivalently, so to speak, at least in my mind. For example, there was a Jimi Hendrix relic card that had been pretty popular out there on, in terms of sales. I think it was a $100 card at some points. And for the most part, from what I saw, a lot of people received Dwight Gooden autographs in return, and he's not that expensive. Is there a process, or what can collectors do potentially to get the replacements fixed if it seems it's not a fair replacement?
Yeah, I
Or,
mean, in some of those instances, we understand, and I mean, these were difficult for us to swap. The Jimi Hendrix and some of the other entertainment cards that we did were very unique, and
right.
the values, it was difficult to ascertain the value because there are, big swings in value on some of those
Yeah,
cards.
that's
So,
true.
for consumers that didn't get a card that they feel is of equal or greater value, we've been working through many of those situations with our customer service group. So I would encourage consumers to reach out to our customer service group if they feel that they were really slighted, and we're trying to work through those situations. We understand that, I'm sure consumers are not going to like to hear to call our customer service group knowing the wait times and how long it can take to resolve a situation. But again, as I mentioned, a lot of these situations aren't cut and dry. Double the value may not, be something that a consumer's happy with. For a lot of our entertainment products, we have consumers that are just interested in entertainment folks, and we get that, and we're trying to address those situations. So I'd encourage people to call customer service, and again, we're trying to get better there. We've increased our staff there. We've added several new people in the last few weeks. We have several positions open, so we're going to continue to bolster that group. Longer term, we hope that's an area that we don't have to invest in if we can solve the redemption issues up front and put less redemptions in our products. We'll have shorter wait times and lesser need for people to be working in the consumer on the phones that are talking to consumers.
Yeah, I mean, people have asked me in examples like that, and basically I say just contact them. Personally, I've never had any problems with stuff not getting replaced, or not getting replaced, and then I've never had any examples where I felt that it was egregiously off myself. But I've never, you hear horror stories, but at the same time, you don't hear about a lot of the success stories either. And for that's what I've told people is just to contact you guys when there's a problem.
We absolutely make mistakes, and we want to work through those situations. And again, 90+% of the situations are resolved, and both parties are happy. But you're not going to hear about those.
Right.
The number of complaint calls we get versus the number of thank yous. You can imagine it's heavily, on the complaints, which we understand. I mean, again, we're here to try to make great products for our consumers, so we understand when they're frustrated. But sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the blogs and caught up on a lot of the negativity. But for the most part, I think when consumers are working through our customer service group, we're reaching great solutions for them, and they're coming out happy and continuing to be customers for Topps.
So where does the entire process stand now? Are there changes to come, or are you guys considered caught up per se? For example, you guys mentioned today that Chrome is coming. It has redemptions, but you guys said much of them are in house, and you guys are starting to do a weekly update. Is that one of the potential changes that people will start to see, or?
Yeah, it absolutely is. I would say we are definitely not caught up. We are catching up. There's a tremendous focus on this area. We know this is one of the biggest weaknesses our business has right now. This is an area where, to some extent we do feel we're getting beat out in the marketplace, and we know we need to improve. It's completely unacceptable to us internally, and there's tremendous resources being allocated to work on this situation. So we're catching up. As we said, we're going to be doing these weekly updates on Facebook, Twitter, on Tumblr. We've been announcing some of the bigger names. Just over the past few weeks, we've had big athletes, including Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr., Hank Aaron, Bryce Harper, all coming in. We're working through these situations. We get it. We get the frustration of the consumers. We're spending a tremendous amount of time trying to fix this. So we're catching up. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. This stuff doesn't get fixed in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We're going to face some struggles through the end of the year. We look to really, really get things nailed down and fixed as we go into 2014. Some of the products that are still yet to come out will have redemption rates much, much lower than Topps Chrome. We're very disappointed in the result with Topps Chrome, and that's why we wanted to come out and address it and let the consumers know who's a redemption in there. And as we mentioned, many of those are in-house. Many of those that are redemptions in product, there's some players that, partials are redemptions, things of that sort. So we're working through it, and we want consumers to know that, tomorrow's the street date for that product, And when consumers start punching those redemptions in, we want to make sure that those are getting turned around as soon as they come in, and there's no 3 or 4 weeks of internal red tape for us to get those redemptions out. So we'll have more updates to come this Friday on that product and other products. And again, we're going to continue to get caught up. There will be changes coming in the future, and we look towards getting this fixed.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it's great to hear that, because obviously some of your biggest products of the year are still coming too, like 5-star, triple threads, things like that. So,
and we absolutely understand the importance. We know our consumers have been extremely patient, and we applaud them for their patience and sticking with us on this. We're creating, we feel some, great products, and the redemptions is the huge black eye on this stuff. So we know with 5-star, with triple threads, with some of these other products, that we're pushing to get this stuff right and get these cards signed and live in the product. And we're also trying to manage not delaying these products further too.
Right.
Again, both our customers, hobby stores, distributors, and the consumers have been very patient with us and very understanding of street dates getting pushed back. So we want to stop with the street dates getting pushed and lower these redemption rates dramatically.
do you guys intend to use fewer redemptions in the future, or is that even a possibility?
Well, our intent is to use no redemptions.
Right.
The reality is different. We are doing things to plan much better and utilize the off season, especially for baseball. Utilize the off season and spring training to get a lot of stuff signed before the players head into the season. And a lot of guys, when the season starts, their focus is primarily on baseball. Throughout the season, their focus is primarily on baseball. For a lot of the prospects, their focus is, getting up to the bigs, or if they get that call up, performing at the big league level.
Right.
It's the same thing on the football side. We're doing our best to really limit these redemptions, to really get out in front of these athletes and get stuff signed. I mean, the minute guys are getting drafted into the NFL, making sure we're getting cards in front of them, stickers in front of them before the season starts. So we're working, on better planning, getting autographs signed further in advance. I know our customers are frustrated sometimes by seeing our order windows, 4 or 5 months out. A lot of this stuff is all in an effort to lower the redemption rates. We've, pulled some of the order windows even further, and I know our customers probably haven't yet to see results in lower redemption rates. So we don't want to be in a position where we're asking customers to order 4 or 5 months in advance and still having redemption problems. So we're working through it, and again, our intent, we want to reduce redemptions, but we know they're not entirely going away, but we're going to do our best to manage, lower redemption rates with having, great checklists and the best product out there.
Yeah, I mean, again, 38 to 42 weeks in the process, and, one little thing could be dominoes, where one thing affects another. So it's quite interesting.
We did, honestly run into that this fall with some of these products colliding into each other with Topps Chrome and Finest and, on the baseball side. So we need to do a much better job planning. That's on us, and we need to fix that.
And is there anything else you'd like to add? Just kind of a final thoughts or anything like that? Anything I may have missed here in our discussion?
Chris, I think you addressed a lot of the key concerns our consumers have. Again, I just want to applaud our consumers for their patience. And like I said, there's a massive focus on this. I don't want anybody to think that our company turns a blind eye to this, or that we're doing anything malicious here. Redemptions, again, are massively costly for us, are big disappointments for our consumers. So we're working. This is one of the biggest priorities for our company, to get this better, and we will get better. But again, the customers have been patient enough. We ask for, a little bit more patience, and they will see better results, and you'll see better turnaround time. So further changes will come. Being more transparent with the consumers and, upfront telling people what redemptions are going to be in product is going to be a priority for us. And again, updates on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, where we're going to list out the specific cards that do come in. So not just announce what athletes sign, because sometimes, again, athletes aren't going to sign everything.
Right.
We're going to try to prioritize what they need to sign and get stuff done. So I think consumers will see big changes here in the coming weeks and months. And again, we appreciate the patience, and this will get better.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk with us about this, and hope we'll have some other stuff to talk about sometime in the future too.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thanks.
All right, take care.